eyes on me. So writers, we have been working super hard these past few weeks and even this whole year on making sure that our writing is showing our reader instead of just telling our reader what's going on in our stories. We're doing such a fabulous job of making our readers feel like we are right there in that story with them. I'm going to read one of the pages out of Owl Moon from our mentor author Jane Yolen, and we're going to just close our eyes for a second, and we're going to picture it. Now, I know we've read this before, but I want you picturing and imagining that you are right there in this story with these characters. I'm going to see if you can do that, okay? So close your eyes and imagine while I read. I'm not even going to show you the picture. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Okay, open your eyes and look at me. Did you just paint a really vivid picture in your brains of what this character and this author were saying was happening on this page? The way that it stained the white snow? Did you hear all those fantastic details? Okay, so as usual, we're going to try and do some of the things that Jane Yolen does in her books in our own writing today. Okay, so today I want to teach you. You've done such a fabulous job of adding dialogue and feelings into your stories, but there's other things that we can add in our stories to make them come alive, okay? To make them feel like your reader is standing in the moment with you. So that's what we're going to work on today. I want to teach you that you can also add expression, like facial expressions, to your stories. You can also add action to your stories. You can tell the reader what your characters are doing with their bodies to make the story even better. Okay? Let's try that for a second. You remember my baby Gavin's story about how he fell in the mud?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to do real quick. I was reading through this morning, and I realized, even though you've helped me work really hard on this piece and making it so much better, that there is a spot in here that I'm not so sure. I think we could fix it up a little bit more, even more than we already had it. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to quickly read through it so you can hear it as well, and we'll refresh our brains. The rain had just stopped. Baby Gavin was looking out the window. I said, "Let's go." Under my door. I held his hand and we went outside to get fresh air. He teeter-tottered and waddled down the steps into the grass. Baby Gavin ran to the grass to get his favorite yellow tennis ball. Every step he took, he splashed wet mud up onto his pants. Splish, splash, splash. His foot went right into a hole, and he fell right onto his butt. Mud went everywhere. He was sad. Okay, right there. Did you hear that last part?
Yeah.
He was sad. Does that really make you feel like you're in that moment still with me? We did such a good job fixing up the first part of this story with all those nice details, those rich words that we used. But then I just said, he was sad. Do you think we could maybe fix that up a bit? Put your hands down for a second. Do you think maybe we could fix that up a bit to make you guys and our readers feel like they're in the moment?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that part needs work. So let's work on that part right there. Okay? So take a look at the smartboard. The first thing I did was I reread my story. Now what I need to do is now I found the spot I want to fix up. I need to imagine this in my brain. I need to put myself back into my story, okay? And when I can remember, I'm thinking of his expressions. He was definitely sad, but that doesn't tell me what his face was showing me. Hands are down. I want to say to my readers that his little lip, you know how sometimes when we get sad, our bottom lip curls? Show me that. Your bottom lip curls a little bit. Gavin, he had this shock. His eyes got huge like he was shocked. He couldn't believe he just fell. And he was also sad because his little bottom lip was curling. So he had this shocked look on his face, as well as his lip was curling. Okay? He also, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It's almost like he froze. His body was so shocked, he just froze. and he kind of looked up at me. He let out one little cry, and he just waited for me to pick him up because he didn't know what to do with himself. Okay? So, I explained to you what his face was doing. His face says a lot because baby Gavin doesn't really talk much yet, so he doesn't say much. His face was saying it for him. And his action was really that he was just frozen and his lip was curled. That's what his body was doing. He couldn't believe he just fell. I'm going to add that to my story now to kind of make it sound a little bit more interesting, a little bit more detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross that out. We don't really need that. We can start fresh with a new sentence and not even have to say he was sad. So let's try that. Baby Gavin had a shocked look on his face. Speed that up for you. So I think I said he let out one little cry. And sat frozen in. His lip curled. And he just waited for me to scoop him up. Okay, now let's think about how this story has, just with that little bit right there, changed so much. We went from saying he was sad to describing his facial expressions and describing his actions, what his body did when he fell into the wet, muddy grass. Okay? So, do you notice a difference?
Yes.
Do you feel more like you're there with me and baby Gavin in that moment?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. Here's what I want you to do. You brought a piece of writing with you to the rug today. You're going to do exactly what I just did. The first thing you're going to do is quickly read through your story again, just to refresh your brain. Next, you're going to find that one spot where you feel like you could probably fancy it up a little bit, fix it up just a little bit. And then you're going to start thinking in your brain. You're going to close your eyes and picture it. Put yourself back into your story for a minute and start imagining what you were doing, what your face was doing, what your action was doing. You can still think about these two things we've already learned about, but I want you to try to stretch your brains today to work on these two. And then I'm going to give you about a minute or so to do that on your own independently. And then I'm going to ask you to turn and talk, Ashley, to your neighbor, and then plan with them and tell them, this is what I'm going to do today to make this part better. Got it? Okay, independently right now, read through your story, pick a spot, and imagine it, please. He already has that Post-it where it says, beef it up. She's ready to talk, right, about what she's going to do. Here's your next job. You're going to get 2 minutes to turn and talk with your partner. I want you to tell your partner, look at me for just a second, I want you to tell your partner exactly the spot where you're going to go back and revise today and make your story come alive. Using expression, facial expression, action, and maybe feeling and dialogue as well. Okay? Go.
I think figured out how this I didn't really finish it, but still I was like,
You threw your arms in the air, you jumped up on the roof, and what did your face do?
my face did like my face smile.
Okay. Does your eyes get big? Yeah. Okay, because that's what happens when you get excited about something. So instead of just saying, I said, yay, you can tell us exactly what your face is doing and exactly what your body is doing in that moment. Yes? Okay, I have to share what Matea just did, or what she just planned with Siddharth today. So in her story right here, she was talking about how excited she was to come back in from recess, and then she said, yay! But she just thought for a second about how it's really not describing her body and her facial expressions. So what she just decided to do today was to go back and revise this part right here, and instead of just saying, yay, she's going to talk about how she threw her arms in the air, she jumped up, her face, her eyes got big, her face had a huge smile on it, and she shouted, yay! Doesn't that make you feel more like you're in Matea's story right now? Yes, absolutely. Great job, you two. I loved hearing that. Okay, turn back to me, Julian. Here's what I want today. I'm going to encourage you to try really hard to see if there's spots, not just in this story, but in all of your stories, where you can go back and add those facial expressions, instead of just telling your reader, show them by giving facial expressions, also action. You've done such a fabulous job with these other two. I know you can do it with these two as well. So today and every day, your job as a writer is to do your best to always go back, revise your stories, and see how you can make them come alive for your reader, feeling like they're right there with us. Sound good? Can you do that for me? Okay, off you go.